Hello, and you are back in the Velvet Room with Jokerthefool. This is our 48th episode, and today we'll be discussing Rocksteady's new game, Is Everything Wrong with Modern Gaming? Netflix's Avatar is dead on arrival, and more proof of New York's decline. So we're going to get right into it with the most recent game from Rocksteady, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, is looking to be hot garbage. Now, the game officially releases tomorrow, February 2nd, 2024, if I am correct. But there's been this early access period going on for a while. This is a thing quite a few games have done where you pay extra money and you get the golden edition or the digital deluxe edition or whatever hogwash they call it. You get to play the game 3 days a week, however much early, and people were doing that, and the game was broken. You would log into the game. This is a single player game that has a live service, always online. You have to be connected to the servers to play this freaking single player game, and you would log in, and then you would get an automatic game complete, so they had to take the servers down. So if you paid to get early access to the game, it was so broken on launch that Rocksteady couldn't execute on giving you that, something that you paid more than the, I think, $70 price tag for to have that. And this is really the bigger problem I have with the modern gaming industry, is that it's games as a service. It's release it broken and then fix it with patches, release a game with half the content it should have, and then say we're going to have a roadmap and then release the rest of the game in like a year and some change from now, when everyone who's bought the game at release day has already said, hey, I played it, it's a broken, shitty, buggy mess, and I'm checking out. And then by the time it's worth playing, you have this bad taste in your mouth that you just can't get out of your mouth, and you don't want to go back and play it. And this is, again, what I have a bigger issue with Rocksteady and the whole gaming industry in general, is all these bad business practices that they're doing. And then you add on top of that, you've got the content problems that are very evident in terms of the creative decisions that Rocksteady has made with releasing this game. You have the way, Batman is killed. You have Lex Luthor's files mentioning toxic masculinity as a problem that the Amazonians have eliminated in Themyscira, and shitting on Green Lantern as well. All these sorts of things, these content issues coming from a very leftist mind view, and that being pushed onto the player. And then you got the character designs, and you've got the fact that they're using the Arkhamverse, the foundation, that legacy that those from I guess technically four. You've got Arkham Asylum, City, Origins, and Night. Those 4 games. That's the Arkhamverse that gamers love. People love that, and basically just using that to say, hey, it's taking place in the Arkhamverse, buy it. And then basically shitting on it. You have less work to do. You can get to sell more. You get to do all this nonsense. But I am just saying that the content issues are only part of the problem with this game. It's more it being a buggy mess. It's using the source material and having absolutely no respect for it as well, just to sell copies and just to get this kind of I guess cathartic release of being able to update stuff for modern audiences, or push the message in entertainment, or whatever freaking hogwash is going on inside of all these studios. So I think Rocksteady's based in London, but you go and you find all these studios are based in big cities like Los Angeles, New York, all these big cities that are very liberal. They hire these leftist people, and you get stuff like this. So not only are the people all down with the cause, the corporates are also down with the cause to increase the ESG scores, because the boards are the type of people who, they sit in boardrooms and they make deals about who needs to call who racist to make the most amount of money that quarter, and all trickles down. So it's top down and bottom up. It's meant to be like this, or they want it to be like this, and this is the end result. You get a game like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League that can't even work properly for the early access you pay extra for, has all these content problems, doesn't respect source material. You've got a beloved character whose last voice acting performance by Kevin Conroy has no respect paid to the character. Definitely not to the degree it should have been, considering that it is his last performance. And yeah, sure, they didn't know and all these sorts of things, but it's just, if you wanted to make a game like this, you could have made it take place in a completely alternate timeline with a completely different Justice League and Batman and all those sorts of things. But they made it take place in the Arkhamverse because people love the Arkham games, and they're using that legacy of Batman and those Arkham games to push sales. And also, it's just to cathartically destroy something that people love as well. I think there's part of the influence there as well. But I've ranted enough about this video game. We're going to move on to a television show. So this article is from Bounding Into Comics, and I just need to pull it up here. And the headline is Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender star Kia Waititi reveals live-action series took out the element of how sexist Sokka was. Now, I'm not sure if you know about Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is a show that was perfect for my age. I was like 6 years old when the show first launched, when the pilot aired on Nickelodeon, and I watched the entire thing through. I didn't watch it week to week. I think when the show was ending, they did this marathon run of the entire show, and I caught up there, and I watched the ending that way. This was back in like 2008. And I also watched the last live action adaptation of Avatar in theaters, M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender movie. Hot garbage. And I do think this Netflix show will be slightly better than that. Because if you've got more time to expand on the story, you've got people who I would say probably care about it slightly more. There's a great example of what not to do in terms of a live action Avatar that they can go and follow and reference and basically not do those things. But do I have faith that this is going to be something that's good? No. If I want to watch The Last Airbender, I've got the entire series on Blu-ray. I will just do that. And that is the better thing, because they are not respecting the source material. So if you aren't going to take this show and do a shot-for-shot remake, but in live action, and preserve the intent, tone, script as much as you possibly can, then there really isn't any point in doing it. And there's no point in doing this at all, because I love animation as an art form. I think this is a show that works so well in with the 2D animated style that it was in, with terms of how expressive the characters were, how everything looked, all the music, it all blended and melded so perfectly together. It was really lightning in a bottle. Those first 3 seasons, probably just one of the best stories to ever be told, I guess ever, but I'm a bit biased. But we'll get into the article here, and it's basically saying that let's see, want to make sure that Sokka's when he says that, but there's things that were redirected because it might play a little differently in live action. And I think the biggest thing was that it's very much not to offend the female demographic. This is more or less to just say, like, hey, this stuff in the original show was very questionable, so we can't possibly do that. So it's just a bit ridiculous to me. And if you look at the character of Sokka, this is a 15-year-old boy whose father was the leader of a basically like an Inuit tribe in the South Pole of this world, and he and all the other men of his tribe, they go off to war, and Sokka's the lone male because he was too young to go to war at the time, so he wants to be a boy that wants to be a man, and that show is him, a boy learning to be a man. And he has these things where he's a bit sexist, he's a bit chauvinistic, but he grows and matures as a character, and he's never misogynistic in a way. He does love and respect his sister, he just learns how to express it, and that's how it all happens. And with this episode, the Warriors of Kyoshi, where Sokka's like, it's just a natural order of things that girls pick dance and guys hunt and fight and all those sorts of things, and then he goes to Kyoshi Island and he sees these women warriors, and he gets his ass handed to him, and then there's this whole thing where he has this change of worldview he develops as a character, and if he doesn't act like that in the first place, there's no character development that can happen, right? So this is the point of telling a good story, so you need to have character development. So not every character is going to be perfect and not going to step on people's toes or not going to say things that can't be unoffensive to everybody. But you have to sanitize everything. You have to make everything acceptable to modern audiences, instead of telling a genuinely good story with interesting characters, with dynamics that make sense. Because in the show, Sokka's a 15-year-old boy who acts like a 15-year-old boy, and he matures into a man, especially by the end of the third season, where it's very clear that even though he does feel useless because he's not a bender. This is a show where you can basically use the elements air, water, earth, and fire, or a select amount of people can, to manipulate things. And Sokka's one of these people who can't. He just has a boomerang and other kind of weapons like that take after, I guess, Inuit tribal what they use to fight and hunt is what his I guess arsenal takes after. He's got the boomerang, he's got I think bolas or stuff like that. I can't remember exactly, but he legitimately feels like, well, I'm not as good as everybody else, and he trains, gets a sword. This is a third season. I'm all over the place, but in that episode when he's gone, everyone else is like, I can't read maps and do all these sorts of things that he would do. So he was definitely a very useful character. He's a very good character. He's more than comic relief, although a lot of his function in the show is comic relief, and he does that very well. And which is why, again, I am very not concerned. I don't think if we're saying stuff like this, where it's like we have to make the show not sexist. There was stuff in the show that didn't, wouldn't fly over today, or it was extremely questionable, that they're going to completely sanitize it, and they're going to make it more or less just pushing the message on the people, rather than making genuinely good entertainment, rather than telling a genuinely good story. And that is, I would say, where I'm concerned. It's just, I was concerned when I first heard the show be announced and come out that it was going to be hot garbage, because the last live action adaptation of this franchise was hot garbage as well. So I'm not really surprised there, but I'll just leave it there, and we'll move on into the last topic of the day. And if you're still with me through all my winding ramblings, I thank you, and don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff on whatever platform you're watching on. And we're going to move into the last topic, and this is about New York's steady decline into complete insanity. So this happened a couple days ago, where I guess a couple of migrants attacked NYPD police officers, and they got taken in and released the next day, something like that. This is a very common thing where a lot of these criminals, they just get out because you have the cashless bail. You have this society where we have to eliminate the school to prison pipeline, we have to eliminate the slave prison system, and all these sorts of things that say, we have this systemic racism that victimizes all the poor minorities, so we can't hold anyone accountable for crimes and that such. And although I do think this one was very clear cut about just how bad it was, and saying how much of a complete breakdown there is of law and order if you can attack police officers, have it recorded, and then just get out the next day. I think Hochul's like, well, let's take these guys and deport them to show that we actually kind of care, or we have to maintain 5 to 10% of a lawful and orderly society, so that way we can keep all the lemmings going into the office buildings day to day, so we can get the tax income, those sorts of things. So I do think it's a extremely intentional destruction of society, and they want to have it happen at the correct rate. Right, so we talked about this in Hump Day, the latest episode of Hump Day Potpourri, episode 135, where there are people who are very intentionally destroying society in the way that stockbrokers will short a stock to make the business crash, so they can use the business's crash to make money on the stock. Right? There are people who are doing the same thing with society, where they are destroying and degrading society as much as they can, so they can extract the value out of society and keep it for themselves. And I definitely think this is part of it. And it's like, well, we want to have, X amount of crime happen in these places at this time and this way, and it has to be, going down in this way, and this was a little bit too far, especially since it was migrants doing it against police officers, and it was recorded, and they were out the next day. It's like, okay, we have to slow down a little bit, so we'll maybe criminalize them. I haven't looked too much into it, but regardless of however this is handled, this is a lagging indicator of these policies of being soft on crime, of refusing to have any sort of law and order, and also is the state trying to solve these deep-seated cultural issues that state's not equipped to handle. So New York City is just going to collapse under its own weight. People don't care about each other. It's a city of 8 million people. There's no real sense of tight-knit community there, or it's not nearly enough for it to not be a crime trash-ridden hellhole that basically no one would want to live in their right mind, as far as I'm concerned. But I think I will leave it there. I don't have much else to say. I could rant on about how shit of a state New York is, how poor of a city New York City is for the rest of my life. So I will save you from that, and I will see you again next week for episode 49 of this podcast, and we're going into the outro now. Thank you for being in the Velvet Room with Joker the Fool. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe whether you're listening on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, or Substack, and be sure to subscribe to my Substack, velvetroompublishing.substack.com, to keep up with Machine to Man and all my other projects.